This week in the field, a little gear chat. I bought another A7RII. Why not the Mark III? Hi everyone, I'm Scott Davenport. Welcome to In the Field. Thanks for joining me today. So I've been getting a lot of questions from folks since the announcement of the A7RIII from Sony. Scott, are you going to get this camera? What are you doing? You just got a Mark II. Are you happy? Are you sad? And if you saw Photographers in Cars, you saw Spencer and I talking about the new Sony gear, especially the Mark III. Well, here's the short answer. No, I bought a second A7RII. Let me put this out of the way here. And so why did I do that and not the Mark III? Is the Mark III a bad camera? Not at all. The thing's fantastic. It's a great camera. Anybody that gets is going to be very, very happy with it. But they're really, for me, if you've watched other videos of mine or you've read some of my blog posts, when I make a gear purchase, I really think about, what is the problem I'm trying to solve. And initially, I needed to have two full-frame bodies. And, well, this is like one of these first-world problems. I ended up with my two favorite lenses, 16-35, 24-70. They're both mounted. I didn't have to switch lenses in the field. That started to get really nice, but I prefer the A7RII. It is a better camera than the original A7R. And so, well, the Mark III came out. What am I going to do? I looked at the features of the Mark III, and there were a bunch that are very compelling. They're very interesting technologies or nice improvements. And the ones that stood out to me, I'm going to look at my notes here to make sure I don't forget any. First was the dual card slots. That's a very nice improvement, and that's one of those things that if you are shooting a wedding or any type of event where it cannot be lost. The data cannot be lost. You want two card slots. You need dual backup. I had two card slots in one of my older cameras. I liked it, but I wasn't using it because I couldn't, miss those shots and I had double backup. I was using one to record video and the other slot would record the photos. So it's one of those things where if I had it, sure, I'd be happy with it, but it was not a make or break deal for me with the camera. One of the bigger technological advances is this thing called pixel shift. Sony has a nice video on how the tech works, but fundamentally the sensor moves around by a pixel so that it can capture a bunch of different color information on all the different parts of the Bayer sensor. And what it means is you take 4 photos, and they get merged together in special software, and you get all this rich, incredible detail. Now here's the catch. It's great if you're doing something that is very still. If you are shooting architecture or still life or product photography, and there is no motion in your scene, it's great. And I'm going to read this. This is off of Sony's website and their videos. It says, let's see, a dedicated software application is required for compositing. Okay, expect that. Image compositing may not be successful if the camera or the subject movement causes blur. So the camera blur, a camera movement we take care of by putting it on a tripod. But subject movement, what do I shoot most often? Landscapes. What's moving in landscapes? A lot of things. Grass, trees, leaves, the ocean, clouds, all that kind of stuff. So pixel shift isn't a draw for my style of shooting. It doesn't take away at all from the tech, but for my style of shooting, it wasn't quite a good fit. Next thing with the Mark III, improved battery life. Now, who doesn't want that? That's great. That's awesome. It does mean new batteries, right? It's not the same smaller battery, and that was one of the drawbacks with the mirrorless cameras, because smaller batteries were lighter weight, but they also don't hold as much charge. So now I've got multiple cameras in my ecosystem that all use the same battery. So I think at this stage now with this new one here, I think I end up with 9 batteries across. I have 4 different camera bodies I could use those in. I don't need to even carry all 9 per se, but I can, and I can just use them interchangeably between all of my cameras. That's a plus for me to not have multiple battery styles. So while I'd be attracted by a longer battery life, switching a battery isn't as much of a problem for me. So again, it's one of those, which way is the needle leaning for me, Mark III or Mark II? Now, this one is probably the only going to be like, not even a regret, but it's something I know that I would use if I had it, and that is up to 15 stops of dynamic range in the Mark III. That's incredible. The Mark II does fantastic, and the Mark III will do even better than that. There'll be an occasional photo where it's like, wow, I wish I had all of that dynamic range. And, in those cases, I'll have to bracket and do some type of merging or, blending of exposures. Not the end of the world, but that one was the one that made me stop and think and decide, do I really want to try out that Mark III and go for it or not? But in the end, I didn't do it. The last one was really priced, and that's what a lot of it can come down to. Is now that the Mark III is out, the A7R Mark II dropped significantly in price, and so that's a non-trivial amount of savings. I think the lists are like $3,200 for the Mark III right now, and the Mark II was like in the $2,400 range, if I remember seeing that correctly. To me, that savings it's a lens or it's a trip. It's something else that I could do with my dollars, and so all that stuff added up. Went with another Mark II. Just because the Mark III came out, if you're in the same situation, like, you just bought a Mark II and now the Mark III gets announced, it doesn't mean that your other camera is suddenly less capable. It still works great. It's still awesome. And so just think about, do you need to get those types of changes or those new technological features? Or how critical are they for your shooting? And if you haven't bought into a full frame camera, you've been eyeing one, thinking about it, it's a really good time to pick up a Mark II. It's like the greatest hits of cameras. You can future-proof yourself a little bit more. I'm sure that future Sony cameras are going to use this larger battery. I think it's the same one that they share with the A9. So there's some advantage there. If you're just getting into the system, you've got the a little extra money in your pocket, and you can future-proof yourself some. Mark III, either camera you're going to be really happy with. Just take a look at it and measure it against what your shooting style is. And that's, I guess, my tip of the week really is. I did a blog post on this a while ago. Think about what problem you're trying to solve when you buy a piece of gear. In this case, for me, I'd kind of already solved the problem. This was more of not a luxury purchase, but certainly a convenience. I'm able to switch between camera bodies without having to switch lenses when my scene is dynamic and I need to have those different focal lengths. So that's just a bonus, and I'll probably end up selling off one of the other bodies or converting one to IR, doing something else with it to further my photography. Well, that's it for this week in the field. I have yet to unbox the Mark II, and I think what I'll do is once I do that, I've gotten questions about what my setup is. So I'll probably just do another recording of me setting up all of the various tweaks that I'll make to the menu systems and to the controls. So for those that are curious, I'll put that out there. And I might do that off cycle as far as not taking up another in the field episode to do yet another discussion about the same camera, but watch for that either an off-cycle YouTube post or something on my blog that runs down. Here's the deltas and the changes that I make to the Sony setups. And that's it. Well, until next time, my name's Scott Davenport, and happy shooting.